Hey everybody, got another conversation with Justin and Braxton Cosby. How you doing, sir?
I'm good, man. Thanks for having me back on the show.
Too right, man. Love having you, man. And for folks that don't know, I mean, you do everything: actor, model, author, CEO. What got you started in books, though? Because I feel like that's where this whole thing is going to jump off from. So, how did you become a publisher, author? Whole deal.
Yeah, so my story is a little crazy because I got a word in church actually to start writing books. It was wild. My pastor was preaching, and he's like, he feel like God is talking to him, saying that there's some people out in the pews that he wanted to use to do something different, and but nobody was asking. So I just sat there and was like, okay, that's like, well, what do you want me to do? And I heard distinctly like write a book, and then I'm like, about what, and so I'm a movie goer, definitely a movie head. I looked at a lot of movies and films, and I don't know about you, but sometimes I would be looking at a film and be like, man, it was really good, but I wish they had kind of gone this way. Maybe the trailer misled me, and I really thought the plot was going to be this way. So it was just some cool ideas I had kind of created in my own head, and so they, it didn't come to fruition in the movies that I saw, but it was still good. And I just kind of heard this voice saying, like, all that cool stuff that you saw in movies that you wanted to be in those movies, put them in your own books. And I was like, okay, I can kind of get with that. And I think around the time that I was coming out, I started kind of formulating this young adult story in my head with science fiction and romance and stuff like that. And around that time, Divergent was huge. Twilight had been out already, and Hunger Games were coming around the corner. So I think I was kind of feeling this vibe of like this young adult kind of stuff with these teen romances and stuff. So that's where I came up with the Starcross Saga. I wrote Protostar, got it published by a small publisher here in Atlanta, won a couple of book awards. So I was like, okay, maybe this is the lane I need to be in.
Yeah.
And then a while after that, the publisher went under, maybe like a year after. She's like, here's your rights back to your book. It was great, but I'm done with it. I'm getting out the business. And I got a literary agent, shopped it around, got it picked up by another smaller publisher, and it was doing pretty good. When we came to the second book, I kind of felt like we were on the two ends of a spectrum of trying to figure out exactly the direction of the series. So I basically told my literary agent, look, before this comes out, I want to get my rights back. So I did. And then by that time, I was kind of like, you know what? I really kind of feel like being published wasn't all it was cracked up to be. If you don't have like the push and the muscle to get people just to buy your stuff just because you're putting it out as one of the big five publishers, then I really didn't see a reason. So I said, I think I do this myself. So for the low level productions and things like that, I feel like we can do it on our own. So kind of got into publishing, worked with a larger publisher at the time who was doing more like vanity press, but I got an idea and a feel for the system where we partnered with them to say, hey, we'll do the ebooks, we'll let you guys do the paperbacks. And they were fine with it. So we kind of partnered with them over a couple of years, figured out the ins and outs of the industry, got some contacts and things like that. What we call the industry standard of publishing books to make sure they look a certain way and are formatted in the right way. And we just kind of ran with it after that. And I eventually pulled away from them, had my own thing started. And then between my wife and I, with Cosby Media Productions, we published over 30 authors with 60 titles in ebooks, audiobooks, paperbacks. We do a wide range of publishing from nonfiction, inspirational, self-help biographies to fantasy with dragons and magic and superheroes and science fiction as well, and young adult fiction, and even some new adults. So yeah, so we've got our own thing going. We're very proud of what we were able to put together, and people have been receiving the books well, and the authors have done a pretty good job at pushing their stuff and getting out there and just kind of being able to get to conventions and things like that. So it's been wonderful, and obviously I was able to do my own stuff too because now I'm on book 21 in my writing career all the way from 2011. So it's been wild, really, really has.
Incredible. And now, in terms of your books, are you primarily comics? Do you delve into like novellas and stuff like that? Do you do the whole breadth of the whole span?
Yeah, everything you can think of, I've written. I've written graphic
Yeah.
novels. I've written comics. I've written full-length novels. I've written some novellas as well. So everything that can be written, I've probably touched on. I've done some autobiographies. I've done my health book.
Yeah.
I've done, and also let me see, and then yeah, it's mainly been fiction, science fiction, and the other stuff I just mentioned. So yeah, so I'm a series writer. I've also written some screenplays based on some of the work that I have. So I write in series, so I've got a few series out here. If I talk about my Mount Rushmore of writing, I've got the Proxima Centauri series, which covers Steel Rain and the Star-Crossed Saga. I've got the Broken series with Kisa and the dystopian fiction. I've got the superhero series with the Cape and all those iterations of that going on with the comics and novels. And now my latest and greatest is the Yasuki duology with the historical fictional character, the historical character named Yasuki. There you go. And I wrote this historical fiction series, and it was just a blast and an honor to be involved in such a fantastic project.
I wanted to ask you about that because, like, man, there's something about that period in time that is just so fun to just exist in. Like, I don't know if you watched the show Shogun, but like, oh my God, wouldn't it like an incredible piece of media? And just to live in that world is so much fun. Like, how much do you want to tell about the story? Do you want to delve into like story beats at all, or do you want to just
absolutely.
For it? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And I'm glad you brought up Shogun because I'm from the older school where I actually saw like the original Shogun stuff. Sure. And obviously, when this one came out, it was like scrutiny because a lot of people have been doing a lot of these, rehashes and reboots and all that stuff. And it's like, tell me the same story, but, add a little something to it and make it heavier and make it like relevant to today. Yeah. And I thought that they did a fantastic job. I mean, FX did a great job with the production value on that. It had this nice slow burn with these fantastic up and down moments that kind of kept you dialed into the story. And it was so crazy because I was putting together the outline and starting to really kind of dig into Yasuki because I kind of trickled upon him online one day. I was just kind of scrolling through some stuff and I saw an image and I was like, who is this guy? This black guy dressed in samurai armor. And then I did a little bit of a search. Oh, Yasuki, okay, cool. Kept things moving. Came back to the internet again a couple of days later. He popped up more now because obviously I'm in the algorithm trap. So I thought maybe just do a deep dive. When I did this deep dive, found all this information about him. But the more I found out about him, the more I realized I didn't know anything. So it was all these events, but it wasn't anything personal about him. I didn't know if he was married. I didn't know exactly where he came from. So I started doing this deeper dive, and I was like, man, the elements of a good historical fiction where I can put together the fictional prose to kind of glue together the big moments in time that we do have documented on him of how he served in feudal Japan was just amazing. So it was so easy for me to just come up with a great story to go along, kind of push that character through the narrative of all the historical information I had gathered through research. And it was such great timing with Shogun because I felt like Shogun was kind of the blueprint of how I wanted to write it.
Sure.
I wanted to have these nice, slow burn, deep moments. I really wanted feudal Japan at the time to become its own character. I wanted it to speak on its own. So I wanted to know about the agriculture. I wanted to know about the economy. I wanted to know about the geography of the era. I wanted to know about the warring factions. I wanted to know about the monks. I wanted to know about the ninjas. I wanted to know about everybody, the emperor, the shogunate, and of course the lords in the era. I wanted to know all of them. Of course, the samurai. And so I really did I took my time in writing it to make sure I can piece together all of the narrative of the era and the actual area of Japan where the compound for Nobunaga was. And I also wanted to give a little bit of a deep dive into not only Yasuki, but also Nobunaga. So the book really starts off, the first 3 chapters are about Lord Nobunaga as a young man coming up and then becoming seated as the lord of that era in that area. And so we kind of get an idea of how he ticks, you kind of get a sense of the way he thinks, so that now when I bring Yasuki, who was a slave from the Sudan, and he was taken into Lord Nobunaga's service later on in the book, when those 2 characters get together, and you see them kind of playing off one another, because it did take a while for them to actually connect. I wanted everything to seem realistic. It wasn't just, oh, I found you, Yasuki, you're fantastic, fight for me. That was not how this was going to go.
Sure.
And so I really took my time in weaving that story together, even to the point that, realistically, Yasuki didn't speak Japanese. So when he got over there would be opportunities where the Japanese characters would speak. I put it in bold with a different font to let the readers know that Yasuki doesn't understand what they're saying, And then, of course, the characters would reference that he didn't understand, too. So by the time we get to the moment where they're actually connected, and Lord Nobunaga is actually working with Yasuki, bringing him into his military of samurai, it feels earned by that time, and that was something that I worked really hard at. And when the book got reviewed by Literary Titan, where it became Book of the Month for February, also got a gold medal, 5-star review for Literary Titan, the reviewer said, by the time we get here, everything feels so earned for Yasuki that none of it felt just pushed or stretched or dragged along. Like it was like you were kind of waiting for those moments and they kept backing off and kind of waiting. And then finally when they got there, like, oh, that was good. And so I was happy to see that somebody who read it got those finer points of the things that I really, really worked hard on to make the story believable.
Yeah. I mean, that has to feel good, right? Just the amount of work you put into it. It brings up a question of kind of research. And I'm so interested in hearing how folks, like, we are in the age of information. We have the internet, but like that also leads down the path of like misinformation. Like, how do you know like the page you're reading is legit? Like, hey, I'm giving you good information. You know what I mean? Because I can write a website right now and tell you a whole bunch of lies about whatever you want.
Right.
So how did you navigate that? Is it just you going to the library and being like, give me everything about feudal Japan? Like, or like, how does that usually go?
Yeah, it was a little bit of everything. Kind of have to just talk about. I had to research a bunch of things, right? I had to research the area, the region of Japan where this took place. I needed to understand how the system of hierarchy was. You know, I had to know why there were feuding regions and factions in that area, why the monks existed, and how did they feud. I need to understand the religion. So those things were kind of easy to capture.
Yeah.
The things that were a little bit more difficult is trying to pin down the wars, because that was really what ran that time period from 1579 to 1582 was all the wars that were going on and why. And honestly, that's where I was able to use AI to really help out to kind of pull those moments. I would find something and say, what about this period? And it would give me all this information. I was like, what about this? You know? And so those wars were real. How Yasuki got his sword was real because when Lord Nobunaga would take over some of the other factions and kill those lords, he would take their swords. It was a part of the way that they did in that time. And so eventually he gave one of those swords to Yasuki, you know, and Yasuki's name that wasn't his name when he got there. He had his Sudanese name. Okay. And so I had to come up with a name that was powerful because there was no research and no information on his real name. Got that. And then once he served in the Lord Nobunaga for a while and he was accepted and changed into a samurai, then Lord Nobunaga gave him that name. You know, and so all of those things had to like come to play. And as a writer, you write your outline and you have all your information, and so you're ready to write. But as a writer in historical fiction, you have all your information, and now you've got to say, okay, by this time we need to be doing this. By this time we need to be doing this. I need to have some reasons as to why Lord Nobunaga even trusts Yasuki after bringing him into his service. Yeah. So he had a son, so I had to kind of build on that relationship. There were a lot of themes that went on with this book, because even though it was historical fiction, we had to fish out of water, where you take Yasuki, an African from the Sudan, who was a slave, into this plush, compound that was like so amazingly decadent, and there was food everywhere, and there was all these other things, and he lived in the back house with some of the other slaves who came there as well. So how did he earn that trust from Nobunaga? Those are the things that you'll find out when you read the book, and also how he kind of acclimated to the culture. So we had the fish out of water theme. We had the sensei, because there was a retainer who kind of brought up Lord Nobunaga, who was now placed in the responsibility of actually watching over Yasuki as well. So when he was older, so he had a nice little mentor-mentee kind of thing going on. And then of course you had the relationship between Yasuki and Lord Nobunaga's son, who was a little bit younger, and they kind of played off of each other too. So it was all these nice relationships that kind of came together to put together a story that I'm very, very proud of. And obviously it's won quite a few awards. It won the Top Choice Award from LitPick website. Like I said, it's already gotten the Gold Medal Award from Literary Titan. Midwest Book Review gave it a great review as well. And so it's doing the things that I want, and it's up for an award with Indie Reader as well. So I'm excited because I feel like all the components that were really difficult to navigate to make those right decisions, I think the decisions were the right ones that I made. So I'm happy about it.
Yeah, that's awesome. What is Resurrection? Is that just the book two? Is that just a fast follow of like? Yeah.
You got the cover of that one? You want to flash it up?
Let me grab it real quick. I don't have it offhand, but I grab it. Oh, that's perfect. That's even better.
So what I did with this one is because I had written trilogies before, and obviously I got a 5-book series with the Cape. I said, let's do something different. I wanted to do something very intimate and not with a lot of legs like a trilogy would be, but the way that Cosby Media Productions works with our own comic imprint, Star Child Comics, is we consider ourselves like a hybrid conglomerate of publishing where you may start off reading a story in a novel, but then next, like book two, may be a comic or maybe a graphic novel. Maybe you start off in a comic, which is book one, the novel is book two. There's just a lot of ways to go, but we like to give people a different change in medium to experience our stories. And so what I did with this one, I started off with the historical fiction novel, and I just thought it would be really, really cool because I'm a huge fan of Japanese culture, Chinese culture, and I grew up in an era where I looked at TV on Sundays. It was called Samurai Sunday, and they had all those fighting movies from China and Japan, where people would get hit like 30 times in the chest and just spit up a bowl of blood but keep fighting. So I wanted to kind of pay homage to that because I was pulling up so much of the culture with the historical fiction that I wanted this fantasy story with Yasuki, where now as it ends in Dead Man Walking, because in real life nobody knows what happened to Yasuki after the huge event that happens to Lord Nobunaga at the end. I said, well, what if he just gets kind of pulled into this realm where he has to fight all these creatures, and he has the rules of normal Earth don't really work, so you can fly around, you can kind of jump off walls and things like that, and even run across water and fight and give him this huge sword. So all of that stuff is what I just really kind of jumped in and just had fun with Yasuki on this one. It basically became like black manga, and so we can talk about like Black Samurai. Again, I was just paying homage to all these great things that kind of came before me, and came up with this graphic novel that has really been wonderful as well. People have had a great time. So I wrote the script, worked with a fantastic artist named Eliza Olamide. She's Nigerian artist, and she's done a couple of our stuff already. She's done AMDK, and she worked with me on that one. And so just really excited. We're in convention season, man, so it's time to start cooking. We had an amazing time in Huntsville Comic Con back in March, and people just couldn't stop by in the Suki no matter what I did. It was just like hand over hand. So I'm really excited. We're going up to South Carolina this weekend to South Carolina Comic Con in Greenville. So anybody who's watching, if you guys in that area, come on through, grab some Yasuki stuff and some of the other things that we got as well.
That's awesome. Do you have a schedule posted anywhere? Like, can I steal it and throw it up?
Okay. On the website, absolutely. On the website, if people go to cosmediaproductions.com, you'll see the news feed that's going across the top. One of those tabs is going to talk about our convention schedule. Just click on it and you'll see all the things. We are now adding another show. It's going to be the Southern Festival of Books in Nashville, Tennessee. We have to add that one to the site. We just got approved with that one, and that's going to be in October. So really, really excited to be getting back to Nashville. I hadn't been there in a while.
Awesome. Do you have any really fun memories of the con? Any fun fan interactions you want to share?
Anytime that people come back and say, hey, I got your stuff last year, what you got this year, that is just the best. And they tell you they read it and they loved it, and man, you're a good writer. I love what you always got something exciting. Those are the things. Those are the moments that as a writer you just live for, because you write a story, you put together the outline, you come up with it, and you think it's really cool, and you just hope that people feel the same way. And so when they give you love, man, it's like this. There's no other. I remember one time I had a woman who came up to me, and this is one of the best stories. My wife and I laugh about it to this day. This white woman came up and she said, "What, you're a black author?" I said, "Yeah." She said, "What do you have?" And I started kind of showing her a whole bunch of stuff, and I was showing her some of the superhero stuff that we had been working on as well. And Lawrence St. John wrote the Metatron series, which is part of our dedicated superhero universe.
Yeah.
And so she goes, well, I have a black grandson, and I want to make sure I give him some black characters. And I was like, oh, okay, well, we got some of this stuff over here. And she said, well, what is this? And she saw Metatron. And Metatron is a white guy. He's got like this. He's got this hat. It kind of looks like he has the hat from the guy from Mortal Kombat with the lightning. and he's like hovering on the
Raiden.
yeah, Raiden. And then she's like, oh, well, what about him? Is he light skinned black? If you want me, if you want to pick up a copy, I'm not gonna stop you, but no, So no, give me one of these other ones. So that's great. I understand the love for it. I think she ended up buying it anyway, just because the cover was cool. But yeah, but she was very intentional about what she wanted, and I thought that was awesome.
That's awesome, man. Speaking of more fan interactions, and I was kind of going through your press releases and things like that, and I saw a fun clip of just a whole classroom having one of your books, one of your comics. And I just thought it was so cool because, like, as a kid, I grew up loving reading, and I know that like the literacy rate in America is going down. Like, anytime we can spark reading in anybody is a joy to me because I think it's so beneficial. Like, it's awesome, man.
It's a win. I do books author visits a lot here in Georgia, so anytime I can get a chance, and again, superhero fiction is really I started writing superhero fiction because early on, it's just the truth. Females are a lot stronger readers than young males, and they'll just have so many other things to do, I think. And so when I wrote science fiction romance, I mean, girls were picking that stuff up left and right. So like I say, it was at the time when Twilight and everything went out, so it was easy to sell. And then I started realizing I couldn't get the boys to read. I kind of jumped into a lane with Marvel coming out with all the movies at the time, and all the heroes that I grew up with DC and Marvel, were now on the big screen or on TV. I was like, man, this is a great opportunity to jump in. I'm sure that boys would read superhero fiction. So we started off with the Cape series. I partnered with Dan Payton with his Bark series, Tayo Champion with his Majesties of Canaan, Keyshawn Dodge with his Mizuho series, and like I said, Lawrence St. John with his Metatron. And we just kind of brought all our characters together and created this whole superhero universe called the CMPDSU, Cosby Media Productions Dedicated Superhero Universe. And we just kind of wrote things in stages, and I think right now we're entering stage 4 with some of the other heroes, and the comic book came out that just continued to tell the story. So when you're talking about 17 superhero novels, along with 8 comics, like we just built this world that we just want people to come and play in. And little boys and stuff, they come to the table, they're looking at the comics, and we're telling them, hey, you also get novels with this too, and it's just great. So our literacy program that we created is called Rediscover Reading, because again, I was an adult who was just getting back into reading, because when I was younger, they forced me to read stories that I didn't like. I didn't identify with the characters, the stories at all, but I had to for reading. So when I got through into high school and college, I was studying, so I wasn't trying to pick up anything leisure. After going through my master's and my doctorate program, I finally was able to sit down and write, because it was my calling to write anyway. So I had to read what I wrote. And I started going, man, this is so great. Like reading is even better than the movies and stuff, And so for me, it was rediscovering reading and the joys of it. So now I want kids to kind of focus and get back into reading, as well as the parents too. So there's a lot of people who walk by the table at the convention, and I go, hey, what do you like to read? Oh man, honestly, I don't read anymore. I used to read comics, but I haven't read a comic in years. What do you have? And I kind of pitch it to them, and they'll pick it up, or maybe they'll go in and download the audiobook, because I do a lot of driving. I listen to the audiobook in the car, I'll be able to read it. So I give them the link, they'll go and buy it right there. I'll sign a card and give it to them so they can know at least they got something from me.
Yeah.
On that. So it's been great. It's such a wild ride. My grandmother was an educator for over 45 years in the school system. So and when she passed away, she never got a chance to see what this has become. But I know that she would be very, very happy and be just in awe at us being able to do what we do and give back to communities with books and stories where they're family friendly and people can enjoy them.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so how? Let's say I'm a comic book writer, author, or whatever. Can I come to you and say, hey, can you publish my book? Is that a formal thing, or do you just have a certain select group of people you work with at the moment?
No, absolutely. We always take unsolicited opportunities to read people's books. I usually tell them, hey, send me a synopsis for 3 chapters. If it's a comic book, send me the first couple of pages, send me a synopsis. Let me see if it works with what we have, because we have continuum of stories. We don't like for things to be separate, like just kind of sit on its side. We want everything to be able to kind of dive in and out, because we feel the congruency of the storytelling is what really makes people interested. Like they want to know there's a bigger world out there. So that's why like our comic books always have like the pages on the back that link them. They can, you can go and buy the novel if they want to. If they've read through the comic, they're like, man, I really want to see what else is going on in the Cape series. They can hit that QR code and go right to the website, buy the book. They don't want to buy them directly from us. With signatures, though, if you don't want that, you can always take the link that takes you to Amazon or Barnes and Noble as well. So you can always pick up Kindle, paperback, hardback, whatever you want, because we just want that continuum storytelling. So as long as people are okay with that and being able to say, hey, yeah, let's play in your world with our characters too, then we definitely welcome that.
Yeah, it's your sandbox, but you can bring your toy.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Cool. With Dune ending, the trilogy coming to a close, is Red Gemini the next thing? You're gonna put it on the big screen?
Listen, I would love to. Like I said, the Red Gemini Chronicles is under our big umbrella of the start of the of Proxima Centauri, because that's actually a real galaxy. That's the closest one to the Milky Way. And so there was, I basically made it where they have these twin stars in that system. So the Red Gemini Chronicles that just talks about, like, we got romance series with Starship Saga. We have the Bounty Hunter series with Steel Rain. And we do have issue 2 of that comic. It's done. I'm just trying to figure out when I'm going to drop it now because we got so much out. And then so it's going to all lead into my bigger branching story of things that go on in Proxima Centauri with all those characters together combined. And I call it my Game of Thrones in space. Not as gory, but in the same kind of way with the people run planets like they ran kingdoms in Game of Thrones with kings and things like that. So I'm excited about the projection of where we're going with that series. So yeah, who knows, man? When Dune has its run, which I love anyway, they've done a fantastic job with it.
Incredible, man.
I don't know how old you are, but the original Dune, and there was actually one that Sci-Fi Channel did years ago. It was when people first started doing limited series, they did it was a 5-day, like 2-hour episode of Dune, and that was the movie. And then so when they did this one, they have done just an incredible job. Warner Brothers has just done an awesome job. And I told people that I'm gonna be honest, as far as sci-fi trilogy goes, if they pull this third one off, it might go down as the greatest trilogy of all time in sci-fi.
I'm with you, man.
I know that steps on a lot of toes. I know a lot of people, and I'm a hardcore Star Wars fan myself. I like Star Trek as well, but as clean as they have been, and how beautiful they've been, and how wonderful the stories have been told, they've got a chance. They really, really do if they can nail the third book.
They gotta leave it alone, though. Dune gets real weird. Like, they gotta leave it alone. Right. Sorry, maybe I'll myself laughing. But what do you think, story-wise? Which one would translate the best to, like, maybe an Amazon Prime anime, or maybe like a movie or a TV show? Is there one you're like, man, if we can get the right audience, this is gonna blow up huge? You know what I mean?
Yeah. As I think about all of the streaming platforms out there now, it's so crazy that we don't even look at regular TV anymore. We just look at the streaming platforms. Yeah. All of my Mount Rushmores, I feel like I have a place for them.
Yeah.
Just because of what people do so well as streamers. I think the Kate series would do fantastic on like Netflix or Amazon Prime, because they do that very well with these nice series of superhero fiction. I think that obviously FX, man, I would give you Yasuki in a hot minute after what you did with Shogun. I think that Apple TV would do an amazing job with all of that sci-fi stuff as far as the Red Gemini Chronicles goes. I think they would just knock it out the park. And if I had Broken, I would probably give Broken to Apple as well, because they've done well with Silo, or maybe even Amazon Prime. They've done a pretty good job with Fallout. So it would be those types of things, dystopian fiction. So yes, that's how I would see them. I used to see a lot of these guys as like one-off movies. I don't as much anymore, because I think the limited series you get so much more information.
100%.
Stuff like that. So yeah, I would probably go that way. Now, if I can get the director of Dune to take Star-Crossed Saga, I would let him run with it and just do an amazing job making it a beautiful story, of course.
Yeah, no, same. That's awesome. Anything else you want to plug, man? Anything else to talk about that we didn't hit on? I'd love whatever platform you want to plug.
The other thing is, Yasuki is a duology, so you got the novel, and then book 2 is the graphic novel. But there's a side story called Blood Moons, and Blood Moons is a regular comic book. But it actually, in the novel, I touch on this deity in the forest that's outside the compound where the story of Yusuke takes place with Lord Nobunaga. They hint on it for a second and they drop it. Well, this is the origin story of that deity named Chiwa, who, funny enough, Yusuke ends up fighting in the graphic novel.
Dope.
So it kind of makes a nice complete story. So when people come and grab it, like they start off, it's so funny. They'll be walking by the table and they'll see our banner for Yusuke next to me, and then they'll see the novel and they'll kind of look. And I go, well, come take a look at it. They go, yeah, I saw it. And then they'll pick it up and start reading it. And before you know it, after I pitch everything else, they buy the entire set because they feel like, how can I just read this now? I'm already so wrapped up into Yusuke. So it's just been great. So Blood Moons is there. Blood Moons hit #1 on Amazon. So did Yusuke. And then for historical fiction and the graphic novel Resurrection actually hit #1 too when it came down to historical comics. So all of those guys have just done really way above my own expectations. So I'm just super excited for what the rest of the year is going to come, because we've got some wonderful conventions we are going to. Guys are going to be in Liberty Books and downtown Lawrenceville in Lawrenceville area for First Comics Saturday in May. We'll be back up in Charlotte, North Carolina in June for Heroes Con. And in July, we're going to take ourselves back to Fanboy in Knoxville, having a fantastic time with the folks in Tennessee there. So yeah, just keep checking us out on the website. Check us out on Instagram, Starchild_comics, also Cosby Productions, and Instagram, just to get more updates and things that we got coming down the pipe. Because we got some new releases coming out from other artists and authors as well. So stay tuned.
Awesome. Thank you so much, sir. Loved having you on here. Appreciate you very much.
Have a good one.
Thanks. See everybody.